Welcome everyone to week 2. I'm going to do my announcement different this week. It's sort of hybrid of a little PowerPoint and audio recording here. But the reason I want to talk to you is because this week we're going to be talking about two really important concepts. In chapter 3 we're going to be talking about actus reus, or criminal act, and in chapter 4 we're talking about mens rea, or one's criminal intent. And these are critical building blocks if you are to be successful in understanding the remaining building blocks before we actually start talking about different types of criminal law violations such as homicide or thefts and so forth. All right. So actus reus, mens rea are really important to understand. And so this week I wanted to try to give you a little overview, part of the audio presentation. And as you'll note here, I've also included 2 short videos on actus reus, mens rea. And I really like these videos. They're short, they're only like 3 minutes long. But I think if you read your material, watch the videos, I think you'll have a better understanding as to these concepts and how they relate to criminal law. All right? Now, actus reus serves several purposes. Now, actus reus is a criminal act, doing something, all right? Because we punish people for one's conduct. In other words, I throw a rock through your window. That's a conduct, all right? We punish people for that. We don't punish people for their status. In other words, I'm a drug addict. You can't punish someone for being a drug addict or being an alcoholic. You can't punish somebody for being drunk in public. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but we tend to focus on punishing people for a specific act, all right? And so actus reus serves one of several purposes, and one of those purposes is it reserves the harsh sanction of criminal law for cases of actual danger. So we tend to punish people differently in cases where I throw a rock through your window and in cases where I throw a rock and strike you in the head. They're both involved in throwing a rock. But one causes minimal harm, the other causes much more serious harm. And so we tend to punish those 2 types of acts differently. And that's one of the key elements of actus reus in punishing the specific act that a person does. It also helps to prove the intent. Your act helps prove the intent. And you'll find that there are some crimes that require general intent, specific intent, or strict liability. And that's more under mens rea. But understand that we need to be able to view your conduct, and based on your conduct, your act, determine whether or not the appropriate criminal statute that you violate. All right? So, again, actus reus, very important concept. It has to do with the act itself. The interesting thing about actus reus, or criminal acts, is that only voluntary acts qualify as criminal actus reus. In other words, we don't punish people for an act that they do not do voluntarily. So you may scratch your head and say, what do you mean? Well, here's an example. Let's say I don't like you, and so I decide I'm going to hit you. I hit you and I break your nose. That obviously is an act, okay? I threw back my fist, I struck you in the nose, and I broke it, all right? That's a violation of the law, okay? We met that burden of actus reus. But let's say I have an uncontrollable seizure and my arms start flailing around and I strike you and break your nose. That is not a voluntary act. That is an involuntary act. And so people can't be punished for doing something on an involuntary basis. It has to be a voluntary act. So we'll talk more about that. The videos will quantify that for you, and the book will provide you with ample of opportunities to look at different types of cases and case law that should give you a clear example on what is considered a criminal act or actus reus and what is not. Finally, in terms of actus reus, pay attention to the section that talks about when am I required to do something, all right? Because my failure to act can also be punishable by law. So think about a conduct that you may do that by not properly doing it, exercising your duties and responsibilities, you can be subject to the law, right? I'm not going to give you the answers to that. Go through the textbook, watch the videos, and you'll see where you, as an individual, can be punished for not doing something, all right? So pay attention to that as you go through and read the book. Finally, mens rea. Mens rea is basically your criminal intent, the criminal mind, or your mental attitude, or something like that. It can be rather complicated and confusing at times. So as you read through the chapter on mens rea, read it slowly, pay attention. Please read the cases that are outlined in the textbooks, because they will give you good examples of how this legal concept is applied to cases or not applied to cases. So as you prepare your studies this week, make sure you fully understand when you talk about mens rea, there's a couple key concepts. Number one, general intent crimes. And what is a general intent crime and what does it require? Specific intent crime. What's the difference between a general intent crime and a specific intent crime? And then the legal concept of strict liability, right? I think you'll find strict liability laws sort of interesting, okay? So again, to help you better understand these concepts, I have a couple of videos. They're only about 3 minutes each, so please make sure you take a look at those. All right? You guys have been doing a great job this week. All the assignments are great. A lot of positive interaction between you guys on discussion boards on last week's activities. So let's continue what we've been doing this week. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, you can try the discussion board forum, or you can email me, or if it's something you think we want to talk about, you can call or text me, and I'll be happy to try to explain it to you, okay? But read the chapter very carefully. Take a look at the cases that are outlined in the textbook. Watch the short videos that I've attached, and I think by the time you do all of that, you'll have a really good understanding of what actus reus is and mens rea, okay? All right. If you need anything else, as always, don't hesitate to contact me. All right? Talk to you later. Bye.